Okay, welcome to the video. Sig Guy here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the magazine release in your Sig Sauer P210. We're going to remove this original one here. We're going to swap it out with the Armory Craft extended mag release. Okay, so the first part of the video, I'll show you how to remove this magazine release. Once it's out, we'll do a side-by-side comparison with the Armory Craft extended mag release, and then in the end, we'll put it all back together. So with that, let's get started. So let's talk about tools and terminology before we get started. Everybody calls this a mag release because that's pretty much what it does. You press on it, it releases the magazine. Technically, it's called a magazine catch, okay? And then there's a little plunger that locks it in place. I call it a plunger. That's called the magazine catch stop, and it is spring-loaded. There's a little spring in the back side of it, so that's called the catch stop spring. And then there's a fourth piece involved here. When you release your magazine release, the spring that pushes it back out is called our magazine catch spring, okay? So 4 parts to your mag release. And as always, I recommend people watch my videos from beginning to end. That way there's no surprises. You know what to expect. You know all the parts and pieces involved with that step that you're doing. That way you don't lose any pieces accidentally. So there's our terminology. Let's talk about tools really quick. 45-degree pick or a pick of some sort to push in on the plunger here to release our magazine release. This one works great for me. It's a 45-degree pick. I do sell these on my website, sigguy.com. It's in the 365 disassembly and reassembly kit, as well as the deluxe disassembly and reassembly kit. I like to take apart whatever I'm working on down to its smallest part. It's easier to manage and stuff. So obviously for safety reasons, we want to remove our slide because you might be pointing the frame at your face and stuff. And I'm also going to remove my grip panels. That's a T15 for that cross bolt to remove the grip panel. So we need a Torx T15. And then the most important tool of this whole project is going to be a Ziploc bag. Okay, the bigger the better. This is a 2.5-gallon Ziploc bag. And as we're removing that plunger, we're going to do it inside the Ziploc bag. That way, if and when our pick slips off of that and that comes shooting out of there, it's captured by the Ziploc bag. You're not going to lose it, okay? So if you don't have a Ziploc bag, probably a pair of safety glasses is a very good idea. This happened to me once. I've always heard about it. And my 226 disassembly video, I believe it is, my pick slipped off and that thing came flying out of there. And it went flying across the room. I heard it bounce off a wall, hit the floor, you know. I was very lucky to find both pieces. But if you're on carpet, there's no way you're going to find it. You'd be lucky to find it even if you're not on carpet. Anyway, so there you go. There's the tools and everything. So let's get started replacing our magazine release. All right, always the first thing we do when working on firearms is to make sure we're working on a safe firearm. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove my magazine. And for those of you interested, this is the +1 Armory Craft P210 base pad. Okay. They also offer it in a low profile version. Pretty nice. Those are on my website as well. Next, we're going to lock our slide to the rear. We're going to physically and visually check to make sure there's no round in the chamber, no magazine. Check our breech face, look away, do the same thing again. Chamber, magazine, breech face. This firearm is clear and safe to work on. All right, my videos turn into long videos because I'm really thorough on everything because I want to make sure everybody knows exactly what's going on. Not only that, but there might be content not related to this video that is helpful for other people. So I know this is my first P210. And looking online, there is not much information on the P210 that I could find, especially the American version. So things happen to me accidentally. So along the way, even if it's not even related to our mag release, I'll share that information with you guys. That way, if it happens to you, you know how to take care of the situation. So when we remove our slide, much like a CZ, there's a notch here right in the back. I'll pull it back even further. You can see this notch right in the back here. So it's basically 2 lines, the front line and the rear line. So what I do is when I remove mine, I pretty much line up that first line with the frame here. And that makes it easy for me to push on this nub here, which is going to remove my slide catch. It's going to push it out towards me, okay? So I'm going to kind of line up that first notch there while pushing on the nub. You can see it slid out. You can kind of wiggle it out a little bit. then we can release our tension and then just pull our slide catch right up and out of there. Okay, and then our slide will come right off. So there is a little spring in here as well. Okay, and this is kind of what I was alluding to when I just mentioned what I mentioned. That is the spring that works with our slide catch. So if it does fall out on you, it's no big deal. It just goes in this slit right here. Okay. And I'll even take it out for you. Maybe. That way if this happens to you, you know how to fix it. Because it actually fell out on me. I wasn't paying attention the first time. And I wasn't sure how it goes back in. So I'll show you that to you really quick. That way if yours falls out, you know how to reinstall it. So here's my spring. Okay, it's kind of a hook, a loop, or whatever you want to call it on one side, and then just a 90-degree on the other side. So actually when this fell out, the first thing I do is look online for a parts diagram to see which orientation this is on the diagram. And there is none that I could find with this style slide catch spring. So when it goes back together, there's a little hole right here. Okay, that little hole is what the 90-degree end goes in. Okay, and this other part loops out towards you, so it goes in there just like that. Okay, so what you do is you kind of put this in through the hole at an angle, and then you line up the 90-degree part with the hole. You can see that or not, but the 90-degree part is through the hole, and the hook looped part is out through that window towards us. Okay, and just kind of rotate this down right into the slot there. And it's laying in flat, and your slide will capture that and it won't go anywhere. So if that does fall out, that's how that goes back in. Okay, next we'll remove our grips, the T15 for that cross bolt. Take that cross bolt out, and then depending if you've had your grips off or not, or even if you have, a lot of times they're, see how that spring wants to fall out? A lot of times they're really stuck on there because they're kind of molded to the frame. Okay, so I basically take my finger like this and they push out on both sides, and whatever side comes out first, I'll pull that off. You can see how it's kind of molded around our frame. There's our hole in our frame. Really nice tight fit. And then I'll just basically push out from the other side just like that to get the other side off. Alright, before we remove this, I'll show you kind of what's going on so you know what to expect. You can see how we're kind of pointing the muzzle at our face, so that's why we removed our slide to make sure we're safe. On my mag release, you can see on the front side here this little hole, and inside the hole is that little plunger. Okay, right there. So that plunger is basically shaped like this. Okay, it's cupped onto the frame. This is the frame. It's kind of locking it in like that. Okay, so what we need to do is push in on that plunger so it clears the frame, and then it'll slide out past the frame. Okay, so that's kind of what we're working with here. You want to be very careful when you do this too. You don't want to mess up your frame and stuff with your pick. You know, scratch it up, gouge it up and everything. So be very careful when you do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in on my mag release just a little bit. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to relieve the tension between our the catch stop in the frame, so it'll be easier to push in. Okay, so I'm basically going to get my pick on there. I'm going to start pushing it in, and then I'm going to push in slightly on my slide or magazine release. Okay, I'm going to feel my pick go in further. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to relieve my thumb slowly. Okay, we're going to pull this out really slowly because we really don't want our pick to come off of that. So as that the catch stop clears the frame, then I'll slowly let go on my pressure from my pick, so that spring pressure, eliminates the spring pressure in there, and then that slide catch doesn't come shooting out of there. Inside the bag, it's no big deal. What's probably going to happen is when you're coming out with it, your pick's going to slip off the catch stop there, and it's going to come shooting out, hit the side of the bag, and then it's just going to be laying inside the bag. So definitely a good idea to have the bag. You're not going to be able to see me doing this, but let me get the bag set up, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so I got my bag. I'm going to stick my frame inside there. My other hand in there. Grab my pick. I kind of aim this up so I can see what's going on. And actually what I do is I kind of point it away from me, so that way if that plunger does come flying up out of there, it's not headed towards the opening of my bag. So I'm going to push in on my plunger, pushing on my mag release a little bit. I felt my pick go down in there more. It's hard to see through the bag too, so what happened is I pushed the pick in, the plunger went down, and then I pulled out with the pick to help the magazine release come out towards me, and it's just about all the way out. I'm just going to cover the plunger up with my finger here as I pull the rest of the mag release out, and then relieve my tension on my magazine release. So there's my plunger. I'll show you all these pieces once I get my hand out of the bag. The spring is in my mag release. And what I've found is if your hammer's back, pull your trigger and let your hammer go forward, and then that helps the mag release come out a little bit easier, okay? So I'm covering up the spring that's inside the mag release. While not losing the magazine catch spring, which is the one on the back side here. This is the one that pushes out on your mag release, okay? So right away I'm going to take that out, put it to the side so it doesn't get lost. And then here's the little spring for the catch stop inside our mag release. See how small that thing is. That thing is tiny, and the catch stop is super small as well. So that little spring goes inside there, and a lot of times it comes with grease. It helps keep that in there. Okay. And then you can see that little ridge or notch or whatever that captures inside the frame on there. It's hard to see. There you go. Okay. So don't lose these. I don't even know if you can get just replacements of those. So make sure it's in the bag, and if it comes flying off, you'll be good to go. So let's talk about the differences between the factory one and the Armory Craft. All right, so I want to run through their website really quick, and the reason why I want to do this is because 99% of your fitment and your compatibility questions and other questions can be answered right in the description on the website. So take a look at that first really quick. A lot of time and effort goes into these websites to answer these types of questions. And if you still have questions, feel free to message me or Armory Craft, and we'll get you squared away. So this is right on my website, sigguy.com. And the same information can be found on armorycraft.com. Right away, we have our compatibility list, all the different 210s that this magazine release will fit. And then we have our description. Extended mag release button is anatomically optimized for easier and faster magazine release. Reverse angle head matches the natural placement of the thumb for positive contact and control. No need to readjust your grip while dropping the magazine. So we have 4 bullet points here. Extended 2.5 millimeters versus the stock magazine release. Vertical serrations for a more positive tactile feel, reverse angle for a more positive tactile feel, and precision manufactured from a solid bar stock of hardened steel compared to MIM molded factory SIG part, and finished in a durable black melanite QPQ for wear resistance. Lastly, better angle and the longer overall length allows easier magazine exchanges without a need to change your grip, and the vertical serrations provide better friction versus the stock button. So let's look at these side by side and compare in detail those 4 bullet points. All right, so let's talk about the 4 bullet points in greater detail. And throughout this, the Armory Craft one will be on the right, and the SIG one will be on the left. Okay, and when we're talking about the weights installed in the pistol, the muzzle end will be on the left. We are standing on the right. So first of all, we got our 2.5 millimeter difference. in length. So we put them side by side, and I'll have stills to these as well, so you can see them better than me trying to hold them with my hands here. So 2.5 millimeters extended. And then when we have it installed in the pistol, again, we are on this side, the muzzle's on the left. Looking from the side, you'll see the serrations on the Armory craft is vertical. They're vertical. Versus the SIG factory one, they're horizontal. Okay? So that combined with the angle of the face, again, we are on the right, muzzle's on the left. When it's installed in the pistol, you can see the angle of the Armory craft one is facing us. The angle of the SIG factory one is facing away from us, which is the reason why the thought behind the design on this is when we are holding our pistol and our thumb is here, why would we want the angle of the face facing the other way so our thumb has to kind of go up and over it? It doesn't make sense. So the serrations with the angle and the extension, personally me, when I'm holding my P210, I have a hard, because it's such a fat grip, I have a hard time reaching my mag release without readjusting my grip. So on the SIG one, I got to readjust my grip, which pushes my thumb forward to reach it, and then I got to kind of push a little bit more to be able to push in on the magazine release, okay? So with the Armory craft one being extended, it's longer and it's already closer to your thumb. Your thumb is sitting here like this, and the vertical serrations are vertical, so when I'm pushing against that, I got more traction, a more tactile feel. And then the way this is working with the face facing us is as you're pushing it with your thumb, it actually pushes in on the mag release, okay? So it's not like the factory mag release where you're kind of reaching around and pushing in. This one's basically, once you got your thumb on it, just push your thumb a little bit more further forward, and it's going to push in on the mag release and release your magazine. So obviously the steel part versus the MIM part, metal injected molding is what a lot of gun parts are nowadays. These are CNC cut from a solid piece of steel, so it's going to last a lot longer and be a lot more durable. So there you go. There's your differences side by side. Next, let's reinstall our magazine release. Okay, so let's start the reassembly. We're going to grab our Armory Craft extended mag release. The hole in the end here, we take our magazine catch spring. Slide that in there just like that. And then our other hole here is going to be for our catch stop spring and catch stop. So I've put the spring inside the catch stop. We'll slide that into the hole. And the way that we need to position this is the tall side of my catch stop needs to be facing the frame, okay? Needs to be facing the inside. Just like that. So my frame will be here. We're going to push this in through the frame. We're going to use our pick to press down on our D10 again inside the mag release. That way it'll slide inside the frame, and then we'll release it. It'll spring up, and then it'll catch the inside of the frame just like this, and it'll prevent it from coming out. Okay? So I'll do that all inside the bag. Don't do this right on your bench. So that's the positioning that catch needs to be in. All right, so I got everything put together here. I'm going to make sure that this is positioned the right way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this into my frame, okay? So a couple things we need to be careful of here. On other guns, when you put this in the wrong way, you're done, okay? You're done. There's no way to get access to your D10 here to press it in to get it out, okay? Look online, there's all kinds of videos of guys that their frame is busted here and stuff because they had to force this out. On this one in particular, luckily, if you do put this in backwards, which it will go in, you will be able to push that D10 in. This will slide in and it will lock in, okay? And if you do that, you're going to probably think you're screwed. But on this particular one, we're very lucky because you can see the D10 on this side, which you can push with your pick on this side, and then it'll come out. So avoid all that, okay? what we're going to do is that detent needs to be towards the front. Okay. So I'm going to slide this into the pistol like this. I'm going to hold it just like that. Okay. It's resting up against the frame. This surface on my detent is parallel to my frame. So I know that when I push the detent in with my pick all the way inside the mag release while pushing on my thumb on the mag release, once that detent goes in far enough, it's going to clear the frame. The mag release is going to slide in. At that point, I'll keep pushing pressure the whole time. I'll let off on my pick. You'll probably feel it go in a little bit more. And then, before taking it out of the bag and before letting your thumb go, make sure that that detent is captured by the frame. What happens a lot of times is you think it's captured, so you let your thumb go. The spring that's pushing on the mag release pushes the mag release out. That little detent goes shooting out right across the room. Okay? So inside the bag, positioned just like that, I'm going to push in on the detent, and then I'll push in on the mag release at the same time. Make sure that that is facing forward. Okay? So I'm going to push it in. Push in on my mag release. I felt my mag release go all the way in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle it forward and slowly let out and function check that mag release several times. Okay? Before I pull it out of the bag. So you can see, just barely see the detent right there. So then we'll just reassemble our grips, press those into place. Sometimes these go back difficult because it's such a tight fit. Just make sure you have them lined up correctly before pressing them on. That way you don't crack the wood or break the wood or split anything. And then we'll put our bolt back in. Tighten that up with our T15. And then this whole time I had my slide catch spring out because it kept wanting to fall out. So I've already showed you how to put that in. We'll put that back in real quick. Just like that. We'll install our slide. Now line up these two edges here. Just like that. Don't push it back yet to the notch. Just line it up like that. You'll be able to see right through that hole. We'll take our slide catch. We'll get it started. Don't push it in all the way because you don't want to scratch anything up here. Just like that. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pull our slide back to right around that first line. Press it in. Let it go. So your very last step always is to perform a function check on your pistol or whatever firearm you're working on, whether you just cleaned it, you did an upgrade, you did modifications, whatever the case may be, to make sure everything's working properly before returning that firearm to service, okay? So we're going to be pulling the trigger a couple times. So again, we're going to make sure we're free and clear, safe, chamber, magazine, breech face. Can't do that too many times, okay? And then our magazine also, no rounds in it, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is, because we've replaced our mag release and we had actually our slide catch spring out, we want to make sure that stuff's working properly as well. So we insert a magazine and make sure it locks into place nice and tightly, which it does. And then we'll release it with our mag release and make sure it falls out under its weight reliably every single time, which it does, okay? So now I have an empty magazine, so the follower is pushing up on my slide catch. So when I bring my slide to the rear, that slide catch should lock it into place, which it does. And then we can remove our magazine. We don't need that any longer. We'll release our slide, point the muzzle in a safe direction, and fire the pistol. That passes. While holding the trigger to the rear, I'm going to cycle my slide, test my reset. That works properly. And then one more time, rack the slide to the rear. Without covering the muzzle with your hand, we're going to take it out of battery, and then we should have a dead trigger, which we do. Okay. So everything functions properly on this firearm. It is safe to return to service. All right, and there you have it. Just to summarize, that's the installation video for the Armory Craft P210 extended mag release. And boy, that looks pretty nice. I tell you what, Armory Craft, they nail it. I'm a huge fan of Armory Craft for two reasons. One, their improvements, their upgrades make a huge difference. that and they look badass. Okay, so it's the little things all added together that make a big difference. And what I mean by that is, you know, you get some upgrades, you spend $80 on it, and you put it in there, and it makes somewhat of a difference, and that justifies the $80, so you're happy with it. Well, with Armory Craft, it's a huge difference. It's like night and day. So it's not just a little bit of a difference; it's a big difference. Not only that, but if you look at like their sport takedown levers, the other side here, that's usually like blank by most other manufacturers. They put their logo on there and stuff. So it's the little things, like I said, that all put together make the big difference. So we have our three major things, other than being made of solid steel: 2.5 millimeters longer, sticking out, so it's a lot easier to get to and a lot more real estate there. We have our vertical serrations, and then we have the angle of the face facing towards our thumb. Okay, so when all three of those things together, basically with the factory one, you're pushing in on it. Okay, this one here, because the face is facing towards you, it's kind of like a wedge. You're running your finger across the wedge. At the same time, it's pushing in on that mag release. Okay, that with the serrations being against the grain, it's like sandpaper when I run my finger across it. The horizontal ones, if my finger's wet or sweaty or whatnot, there's less grip there, you know. So that part there is perfect. So all three of those things put together, plus it's steel, they hit it out of the park with this one. It's a really nice, relatively inexpensive upgrade, but makes a huge difference. There you go. Those are available on my website, sigguy.com, and there should be a subscribe button right down here in the corner for my YouTube channel, sigguy.com. So if you haven't smashed that, I would appreciate it. As always, thank you for watching, and have a good day.